Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For the next 2 nights, inshallah, that's tonight and tomorrow, I wanted to touch upon the station of women according to the Urafa in Islam, being the days of Fatimiyya. I thought to speak on this related issue. When you look at the Urafa's words in relation to women, they're words, of 1,000 years ago. Words based on traditions of the Holy Messenger. We see that this message, this esoteric tradition in relation to women, it's been lost almost throughout the centuries. And the fact that this negative perception of women has become predominant in most Muslim societies is a result of this inattentiveness to the esoteric tradition, which always existed in Islam. But for some reason it never manifested. And this, the fault to some degree lies in relation to the scholars, who sufficed with the superficial, exoteric tradition and were inattentive to the botany aspects. For example, before the marriage contract is recited, there's a famous, well-known prophetic tradition that states, "An-nikahu sunnati, faman raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni." It's very well known, but its inner meanings have almost become extinct. Ayatollah Jawadi Amali has paid attention to this inner meaning of this tradition. Okay, so marriage is my sunnah, is one of my customs. Whoever turns away from my sunnah, my conduct, they're not one of mine. This "they're not one of mine" applies to Muslims. These Muslims, they're not one of mine though. It shows that the identity here is that of a suluki, spiritual nature. Otherwise, from a Sharia point of view, they're Muslims from the Muhammadan Ummah. However, tariqah-wise, they're not one of mine. Otherwise, no one is doubting that their La ilaha illallah is contributing to their Muslim identity. They're Muslims. But if you turn away from this sunnah, you're not one of mine, in the tariqah sense. In Islam, there are some actions that existed before Islam came. And all that the legislator in Islam did was to sign its approval in relation to those actions. But those actions existed before. However, there are some actions that Islam established de novo, from anew. They didn't exist. They didn't exist as such before Islam, and then with the coming of Islam, Islam came and established it. But some actions existed before Islam had come. And all Islam did was sign its approval, and people continued with that action. An example of the first group is like buying and selling. The normal buying and selling transactions that we see today, they existed before. And with the coming of Islam, they continue to exist, and Islam has no problem with it. Okay, there are some transactions that Islam has altered or modified to some degree. Some transactions is given the red light. But the normal buying and selling that we do today, Islam has nothing against it and it signed its approval. Marriage is also one of these examples where Islam came and signed its approval in relation to marriage. However, in this tradition of the Holy Messenger, he says, "An-nikahu sunnati." Marriage is one of my customs. Why doesn't the Holy Messenger, in relation to buying and selling and those other actions which existed before, he never says, "Al-bay'u sunnati"? What's so special about this marriage? After all, it existed before in other religions. But why does he specify it to one of my customs? It means this marriage has something significant here. Islam is looking at it at a particular light, a particular angle, which hadn't been referred to such a degree in previous religions, maybe. What is that angle which is important in a marriage that Islam is trying to highlight? At the end of the day, marriage is a holy endeavor. It's to acquire proximity, attain the proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's more than just the biological side, albeit that also important, but there's a celestial dimension to it. Here, the scholars have said that this marriage is a form of tanakuh, which is an interplay. Interplay between what? Man and wife. In what manner? It's the interplay of Allah's names and attributes. That's the essence of what is happening in a marriage between a man and woman, where each one is perfecting, complementing the other. Complementing them how? With Allah's attributes. What does that mean? How is a man complementing a woman to incorporate within herself divine attributes, and vice versa? But the more divine attributes you incorporate within yourself, the more the proximity to Allah. The more you express Allah's divine attributes within, the closer you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the meaning of qurb. You're clothing yourself more and more and incorporating within yourself more and more these divine attributes. And as a result, you acquire proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are some attributes, divine attributes, that the woman has and manifests to a degree that a man can't manifest. And there are some attributes, divine attributes, that the man has and manifests that the woman can't manifest to such a degree. Not that he or she doesn't have those attributes, but they don't manifest it as much. And therefore, this marriage occurs. And the man who doesn't have certain attributes as much sees those attributes in the woman and recalls Allah more and more in the process of marriage through those attributes. And that's why a man can't marry a man. There's no perfection in that. It has to be through a woman. And the woman has to recall Allah through those attributes that the man manifests. And these attributes that the man manifests, these are divine attributes that the man is manifesting, is a conduit, a route to recalling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see this equilibrium in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt when they say, whoever has strong iman, their love for women is strong. You see? The equation being your love towards women, the stronger it is, the stronger your iman. Iman in who? In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? Through those attributes of the woman. You acquire an affinity towards those attributes. In the woman, the result is you incorporating them within yourself. Recalling them, you're recalling Allah more and more. And the same with men. And sometimes the traditions say, the more love you have towards women, the more your love towards us, the Ahlul Bayt, increases. Why? Because the Ahlul Bayt are a manifestation of Allah's attributes. And therefore, the more you acquire an affinity towards those attributes, you will appreciate them more, recall them more. Now you may say, what about people, some of the infallibles like Lady Maryam alayhi salam, and other prophets who, other Ma'sumin who were prophets, why didn't they marry? And it's a legitimate question. And the answer is, when you've reached a strong degree of faith and of proximity towards Allah, you have to marry someone who can enhance that proximity. And if there is no one, marriage doesn't acquire that significance anymore. Because marriage is a holy endeavor. It doesn't make sense for someone like Lady Maryam alayhi salam to marry someone of a much lower iman. Now I'm going to explain the question with the Imams and the Holy Prophet in a minute. And we have traditions too that Lady Fatima alayhi salam would never have married if there was no Amirul Mu'mineen. There's no need for them to marry. Now, in relation to the Holy Messenger who married many who were of lower faith and iman than him, or the Imams too, there's one point here that one has to always bear in mind, that with the infallibles, since their self-will is totally annihilated in the will of Allah, and there's no ego, there's no I, it's not, they don't live like we do and say there's an I and I want to marry and therefore I go and marry. With these individuals, their words are Allah's words, their actions are Allah's actions. They're a manifestation of Allah's will. And therefore sometimes for the best interest of a tribe, a community, this marriage has to occur, they do it because it's on a par with Allah's will. Anyway, marriage, its essence is this interplay of Allah's names. That's the essence of it. This is the angle which Islam has paid attention to, maybe more so than preceding religions. And yes, if you turn away from it, you're not one of mine in the spiritual sense. You're still a Muslim. But tariqah-wise, you're not one of mine. Why does marriage complete half of your faith? It's not the materialistic domains alone which contributes to that. So those attributes, of those divine attributes that you can't acquire through other than women, that you need to complete your faith, that proximity to Allah. And so this is one of the wisdoms why it completes half your faith. So there's those attributes that you yourself or other men themselves don't manifest as such, you find them in a woman. and vice versa. Now, Ibn Arabi in his Futuhat has one or two passages in relation to this theme. One of them I just want to read tonight. And there's one story in the Holy Qur'an which the Urafa have taken a lot of ethical, spiritual messages from this passage, from this story of the Holy Qur'an. And it's the story of Nabi Musa alayhi salam and the two daughters of Nabi Shu'aib alayhi salam. And this story has many different lessons to be taken from it. One of those lessons is in relation to the attributes that a man has to have, and that a woman has to look for those attributes. This story does allude to the attributes that the man should have. Those attributes that a woman manifests more than the man, and the man has to pay heed to, they are attributes such as Ar-Rab, Ar-Rahman, Al-Jamal, the nurturer, the merciful, the beautiful, and other attributes. The woman is a manifestation of Allah's rububiyyah, Allah's nurturing attribute, Allah's mercy. She attributes these much more. The man has to pay heed to these attributes in the woman, be it when during labour, gestation, during child rearing, and so on and so forth. Even if the woman, for example, isn't, let's say, God forbid, practicing, it doesn't matter. You should see those attributes. You shouldn't get sidetracked by other things. She may have weaknesses of various sorts, but you focus on that nature. Marriage is a holy endeavour. Don't get sidetracked from this. In relation to the man, though, as I say, this story has a lot of, even spiritual lessons. But one of the lessons which is important for women in choosing the man is that the women, the sisters here, they mention two attributes of Nabi Musa as a preface to the marriage and why he is a good candidate. And that they are Qawiyun Amin. He's strong and he's trustworthy. These two attributes are important. I want to speak about the strong component. It's one of Allah's names, the all strengthy or the all strong, Al-Qawi. And this is manifested in men and women, but more in the man. Now, when we go into the idea of marriage and where this strength applies and how it's applicable in a marriage, we see that in Islam, the woman has no wajib, no obligatory duty to the man, except one or two very small ones. Whereas in the letter of the law, we see that the man has a long list of obligatory duties under the umbrella of the nafaqah, maintenance. And when the man is maintaining, be it in food, shelter, clothing, travels, and so on and so forth, this maintaining that the man is doing requires a lot of strength, action, striving, endeavouring. And according to this story, this is what a woman wants to see in a man. It's this. And the more she sees it, she can use this as a conduit to recalling this attribute of Allah. The lesser she sees this attribute, unfortunately, many scholars, including myself as an example, we fail drastically in this respect. Those who get drowned in knowledge and studying, they think that's the whole point in life, just knowledge, just studying. They see it as an objective, when the objective is proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you get drowned in these other objectives other than Allah, yes, you lose the plot. The imams would work. They didn't need to, but they would strive for a livelihood for their families. They would strive. This is not the way scholars should live their lives. It's not a good lifestyle to show to the masses. When the scholar just orders those under him, for example, to do this, to do that, the imam would strive himself, would extract the water from the well himself, would plant trees, and so on and so forth, himself, under the heat of the sun. He would work. He has a responsibility as a husband. The woman has to see this attribute to recall Allah, otherwise he will be accountable. Sometimes when separations arise in families and they don't know what the reason is, it just happens. They say, we just kept on separating from one another until here. Here, sometimes it's this, that the woman isn't seeing this attribute in the man. She may not even be looking for it. But when that attribute isn't significantly manifesting in their lives, it leads to distancing from Allah. It leads to problems, even though they may not be informed or aware. But this is important. And here we see it in this story. This story also has many other spiritual meanings. It starts in chapter 28, verse, I think it's 22. Something like that, yes. When it says, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَانَ. When Nabi Musa paid attention to, was attentive, tilqa, towards Madian. Madian was where Shu'aib alayhi salam was residing. Okay, he was facing Madian, going towards Madian, or the Midian, the biblical name. But spiritually here, the station of tawajjuh, the inner dimension of this verse, the batini tafsir of this verse is when he was being attentive towards Madian, tawajjuh. Tawajjuh towards his qibla, towards Allah, towards his mentor. The Urafa speak about the station of tawajjuh in their books. It's extracted from this verse, where someone, during certain periods of the day, especially between daybreak and sunrise, in their own quiet, they pay attention to, they become attentive to Allah. In what sense? In the sense that huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-dhahiru wal-batin. He's the first, last, outer and inner of all things. There's nothing Allah free in this world. It's all Him in dimension. كل يوم هو في شأن. See, هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن. It's like the ocean, for example. There are big waves, there are small waves, there are narrow waves, wide, broad waves. All these waves are different in size, in intensity, in shape. However, it's all water. It's all water in dimension. And then someone really pays attention to this. This is one of the roots of being able to break from this realm and transcend to other realms. It's this maqam and station of tawajjuh that the Urafa pay attention to. And then in the verse it says, when he was وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَانَ, when he was in the spiritual sense, being attentive towards Allah, towards His Qibla, or towards His mentor. Each of them can be justified. قَالَ, Nabi Musa said, alayhi salam, عَسَى رَبِّي أَن يَهْدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. And once that tawajjuh was there, he said, maybe my Lord will guide me to the right path. But the maybe of the ma'sumin, asa, when the ma'sumin say it, it's not like when we say it. They know it is most definitively going to be actualized. And this definitive actualization of the right path is a result of tawajjuh ilallah. And when you look at the whole story, each verse then says, وَلَمَّا. Yes, I don't have the verse, I keep on thinking, oh yeah, Qur'an is here. Pardon? Yes, and the verse after it, وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ or وَلَمَّا. Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Chapter 28. وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَانَ. And when he came to the water of the Madian, it's sometimes translated as well, but here it's water. What does this water signify in the spiritual sense? And this opens a whole field. In the Qur'an, in our fiqh, what does water represent? In the traditions, it refers to water as ma'arif, divine knowledge. Seek water. Satiate yourselves with water. It's divine knowledge. In fiqh, we have this concept of khur, voluminous water, and qalil, water. And in fiqh, it gives its dimensions, the volume of each. Qalil water is little water, anything less than khur. Khur is voluminous water. In the risalas and the treatises of fiqh, it says how many, for example, liters it is. Right, here, what do these signify? In fiqh, it says that voluminous water purifies certain contaminated things in a certain manner a number of times. Qalil water can't purify those things, but it can purify other things in a certain manner once again, and so on and so forth. And then in fiqh again it says in qalil water, if something najis makes contact with it, the whole qalil water becomes najis. Then people who only focus on the superficial aspect of these rulings, then become a bit tired after a while. And then they make comments such as, look, people are sending rockets to the moon and you're still thinking about qalil water and cold water, give me a break. This is not on a par with the etiquette, you know. One has to always observe the etiquette. These things are, the scholars haven't made them up. These things exist in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. They exist, they're genuine. The fact that you don't understand its spiritual significance, that's another issue. And maybe it's the scholar's fault for not teaching you, that's okay. But don't discard these realities and these truths. Water is ma'arif, knowledge. When you're dealing with cold water, in purifying the najasat, there's a message here to be taken. It's a conduit to a reality that you have to incorporate in your lives. And that is, make sure your soul, becomes core, voluminous, so that any small najis material, knowledge material, doesn't contaminate you. Be core, be voluminous in knowledge, so that when you encounter knowledge which is polluting in nature, knowledge that is contaminating in nature, it doesn't have an effect on you. You can answer it. You have the means not to be contaminated. But if you want to be qalil, and if you don't acquire knowledge of a certain extent, and if you take it lightly, the acquisition of true knowledge, and only acquire qalil knowledge and become qalil water, when the smallest of najasat, knowledge najasat, comes your way, your whole existence becomes najis. You see, what an important message this has. The Sharia is important, but we have to pay heed to the superficial aspects of it. And this very superficial aspect is a conduit to these esoteric truths. But if you become inattentive to these truths, the batini aspects, yes, you're going to just get drowned in the superficial and you'll never understand the batini meanings, and then that will be a waste of the soul. Here, Ibn Arabi in this passage, the clock, I can't see the clock here, but can you, what time it is? Or?
5 to 8.
It's 5 to 8?
Yeah, 5 to 8.
Oh, and time passed very quickly then, yes.
Yes.
So it's better if I don't start, because, you know, this is a few sentences and there's no point in me. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala tahirin. They said to execute the salat at 8, so.